Straight from the Bulldog Studios at Bryant University, this is the Bryant News Broadcast. Featuring Todd Stewart, Sarah Larrabee, Nolan Thompson with the weather, Chad Sabo with sports, and Dana Arenik with the Bryant Update. This episode is brought to you by the Media Production Club.
Good evening, Todd. Welcome to another edition of the Bryant News Broadcast. So, how are you doing this week?
I'm doing good, Sarah. How are you doing?
Busy as usual, but I feel a little funny, like something happened last week.
Peter Griffin?
Lois
Griffin?
Okay. I don't know what, I don't know how to explain that
I think it was maybe Halloween was in the air. Mm-hmm. It was the October, full moon maybe.
Oh, yes.
We're trying to figure out explanations for
Yeah,
this.
we really have no idea what happened, but we got a great show for you tonight, so we're going to get right to it with the national headlines. The people have spoken, and the country's second largest bank has listened. This past week, Bank of America retracted its plans to charge a $5 a month debit card fee to its customers. After the bank introduced its plans over a month ago, an online petition was started by Molly Ketchpole, a Rhode Island native and a very angry Bank of America customer. In 4 short weeks, the petition was signed by over 300,000 people, and the bank had no choice but to listen to its customers or go out of business. The headline on the webpage that hosted the petition now reads, quote, "We won."
After last week's unsuspected snowstorm, several 100,000 Connecticut residents were still without power. But one of them might be holding a Powerball ticket worth $254 million. One ticket with all the winning numbers was sold at an undisclosed location in Fairfield County, and the lottery officials are waiting for the winner to step forward. The jackpot winner can claim a $254 million annuity paid over 29 years or a lump sum of nearly $152 million in cash. It's the largest payout to date in the state's history, and the winners have until April 30th, 2012 to claim their prize. All right, Sarah, so you win the lottery, $152 million. What do you do?
Well, I think the lump sum is the first part.
Definitely. I mean, you want the money now.
But you seem to be a lottery analyst, so...
Well, I have 2 things of advice for people. One, don't tell anybody. Mm-hmm. Don't tell anybody they have it, because the second that people know that you just won the Powerball, they're going to start looking at you different.
You find out who your real friends are, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then the second one is don't just take it and don't touch it. Don't touch it for a year, because you'll probably do something stupid with it. Mm-hmm. And just kind of let the emotions settle down. But that's a piece of advice I heard, and I think it's pretty legitimate.
Can we just talk about the blizzard in October?
We could. The blizzard in October that hit us, but not only hit like central Massachusetts and Connecticut, they got
the entire eastern seaboard.
Yeah. My parents are still without electricity.
Wow.
Yeah, and they got, I think, around like 15 inches.
Wow.
Crazy for October.
Well, I think, what was his name? Ollie, the crazy weatherman, told us that story last week, but I think Nolan's back, so let's turn it over to Nolan with the weather.
Thanks, Sarah. Well, taking a look at the radar, you can see that nasty snowstorm that came through this week, and a lot of people affected and still in central Mass and western Massachusetts and Connecticut. I know my hometown, there's about 60% of the people there are still out of power, and they're not going to be getting power until this weekend. And things are looking up, though, as this week we're looking at nothing but sunshine, and temperatures are expected to go up and reach the 60s in early next week. Well, it's looking pretty good for the rest of this week. Now over to Chad with sports.
Ever since UFC started up and gained popularity, boxing, what used to be one of the most popular sports back in the day, has been barely noticed. But how can we get fans excited about boxing again? We all know it. If Floyd Mayweather Jr. fights Manny Pacquiao, and this fight may happen soon. Mayweather's agent was quoted, "We're looking to make the biggest fight possible, and everyone knows what that fight is, the little fellow," end quote. Critics have bashed Mayweather of avoiding to fight Pacquiao, but I think Mayweather has had enough of the talk and finally wants to set the stage for one of the biggest fights we have seen in a while. The date is set for May 5th, and hopefully by then all the details will be worked out so we can finally see who will be crowned the real boxing champion.
And now with the Bryant update. Next week at Bryant, the Kiss a Bulldog fundraiser will be here to raise awareness and funds for the American Diabetes Association. In the past, the event was known as Kiss a Pig, as the insulin that used to treat diabetes comes from the pancreas of a pig. This year, we have changed the name to reflect Bryant's pride and also to feature our wonderful mascot, Tupper. Join MSU in the Rotunda Monday, November 7th through Thursday, November 10th, and bring your extra change to place in the jar of your favorite campus community member. The person with the most cash collected will kiss a bulldog 2 p.m. on Thursday, November 10th. Make sure to check out also, as all proceeds will go to the American Diabetes Association. Back to you, Todd and Sarah.
Thanks, Dana. Fall River's Chris Herron has a story that made him famous, or at least infamous. Herron is the subject of the latest ESPN 30 for 30 documentary. The documentary is titled Unguarded, and it highlights Herron's drug and alcohol addiction that eventually led him out of the NBA. Today, Herron is making up for his mistakes. He's traveling the country, speaking to kids in hopes to inspire them to live their dreams. The documentary Unguarded premiered November 1st, and it will be re-aired throughout the month.
Do you have the new iPhone 4S, but realize the battery life is less than perfect? This week, Apple has publicly recognized that there are problems with the highly popular phone's battery life. However, a new software update to be released within the next coming weeks should fix the problem. Developers explain that because the phone's operating system runs so many programs at the same time, including GPS and time zone tracking, it chews up the battery capacity of the phone. This problem has not affected sales of Apple's newest gadget, with over $4 million in sales in the first 3 days on the market. An amazing story after, Steve Jobs passing, the iPhone 4, which actually, iPhone 4S, people are believing that S is actually standing for
Steve?
For Steve.
And it could be, although they did come out with the 3S.
Okay.
But that could have been for Steve as well.
So we don't know the real reason behind that, but a lot of new apps if you're Verizon or AT&T or even Sprint now.
Yep.
Almost all the major carriers except the one that I have.
What do you have?
T-Mobile.
Still not on board, so
nope.
No iPhone for you.
No iPhone for me.
Bummer.
That's fine.
Bummer.
So we actually have a new segment tonight. We kind of focus on Bryant news and local news, but tonight we're going to introduce a segment with Doug, and he's going to talk to us about the world news. Doug?
Good evening. Here are your top stories in world news for tonight. Ireland announced Thursday that it would be closing its embassies to the Vatican and 2 other nations, but denied that its deteriorating relations with the Catholic Church played a role in its choice of cuts. Foreign Minister Eamon Gilmore said Ireland was under grave financial pressure as it tries to slash spending in line with its international bailout last year. According to a financial review, it was determined that Ireland's diplomatic posts to the Vatican, Iran, and Timor-Leste, an island nation just north of Australia, offered the least returns in foreign investment. Gilmore stated, "The government believes that Ireland's interests with the Holy See can be sufficiently represented by a non-resident ambassador. This in turn suggests that a diplomat based in another European country, possibly Italy, would be assigned the Vatican brief too." In Rome, the Vatican dismissed likewise concerns that the Irish were sending another rebuke to the Catholic Church over its cover-ups of decades of child abuse within the country. In other news, the pressure continues to rise on Italy's besieged Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi to step down from his current government position as rebel deputies from his own center-right party threaten to oppose the government in a vital parliamentary vote next week. With financial markets in turmoil and Italian bonds under heavy fire, calls have been mounting from all sides for Berlusconi to step aside and make way for a new government to handle the crisis that now threatens the whole Eurozone. 6 former parliamentary loyalists wrote to Berlusconi, calling for a new government in a letter published in the daily Corriere della Sera. One of the deputies, Isabella Berlusconi, said the rebels could oppose Berlusconi in a parliamentary vote next Tuesday to sign off on the 2010 budget, and that we are convinced that a strong political signal will come. Otherwise, we will see how we will act. Well, that's all for tonight. I'll turn it back over now to Todd and Sarah.
Thanks, Doug. And thank you, everybody, for watching. Alongside Sarah Larrabee, I'm Todd Stewart.
Make sure to check us out every week on our YouTube page, username MPC Bryant. Thanks again, and we'll see you here next week.